And you have to be pretty proud of yourself. You've had kind of a big win up there in Sedona.
We did. It was kind of surprising, actually. It went so fast.
Yeah, I thought they'd have discussion and a back and forth, and it was quick.
It was quick, and I don't I don't really can't explain it other than I was in communication with Melissa Dunn, who was one of the city council members. She's my neighbor, and so I would email her back and forth, and and she said before the regular session, we could just take a poll of the council and see if they'll just vote to cancel it. So no point to a working group or all that other stuff.
The only way for us to make sure that data is not broadly shared or abused is to not have any. And so, therefore, I agree. We need to cancel the contract. We need to remove the cameras.
Time is money, as they say. I really don't want to throw good money after bad, so I think we should just shut this thing down.
I want to see a motion that we cancel the contract and remove the cameras completely from the city of Sedona.
The shift from traditional policing tools where we focus on the bad guys to starting to gather and store data on innocent people who were never suspected of anything. And that, to me, is a policy issue. And that is where, we should have had a conversation about whether we wanted to change our policy or not. So our process failed, and I'm sorry for that.
I have a feeling that they understood that the vast majority of residents don't want it. I think they got that because it was just, people all over the place. So I don't know if I don't think I told you this, but I was on my walk in the morning before the thing. It was before I left for camping. And I said, hey, this guy that I walk by every morning, I never say hi to him, right? And he's in his yard or whatever. So I walk by and I go, hey, we've done some really good work on getting these cameras, removed. And he says, oh, thank you. I'm meeting with the city council, one of the city council members tomorrow for coffee and asking her to remove it.
It was a handful of people who viewed these license plate readers as a modern policing tool. And I think, sadly, they missed the public policy implications that normally require community engagement and a more deeper council conversation about it.
No, there's nothing you can do to this program that's going to make it acceptable. So based on that, I said we just shut it down and have the cameras down as soon as we can.
Okay. So really, community really just did not want these cameras.
They did not. And across the board, everybody I talked to was just a regular person, right? Doesn't want them. And it's the great thing about it is that it's across the political spectrum. From libertarians to liberals, we have and they all have their own reasons. We all have our own reasons, but I'll take it. Who cares?
I interviewed a gentleman from New York a couple of weeks ago, and he's been battling with his town council there. And he goes, I'm a lefty. And it's kind of funny because I'm more on the conservative side. I said, do you think this is the one thing that will unite us all? Are these cameras? And we had a good laugh about it.
The lefties don't like it. The righties don't like it. The independents don't like it. The libertarians. I don't. It does have that going for it. It's bringing everyone together.
Do you think that this is the issue that a lot of people can come together on?
I do. I think this is the only issue that I know of where we can all work together.
Do you feel as a resident in Sedona that you've been heard? Do you feel like you're valued as a resident in your opinion?
I feel like we've been heard, but I also think that it wasn't a resounding, I can't explain it really, but But I do think, they listened to the residents. I think that was it was just overwhelming everywhere they went, everywhere they looked, and all the emails they got.
I have listened to your concerns. I read many of the emails, actually every single email, and reflected on the broader implications. Because of that, I am totally opposed to moving forward with the license plate reader program in Sedona. I believe it is in our community's best interest to remove these cameras totally and to ensure that both our values and our residents' privacy are respected.
So, what do you think the fight will be in Prescott? And what are you expecting to happen there?
I think Prescott is it's a pretty like all-American town.
Mhm.
You have a lot of ranchers, farmers, people, working people. I think the first thing is he needs to get an agenda item on the city council meeting to go through that process and get an agenda item so that the residents can now speak. And then have just put the word out widely. And I think a lot of people would show up in Prescott to talk against it.
Are you willing to help advise people on that process, or what will be your role going forward? Are you, all done here in Sedona, we're done, or are you still in the fight?
I think it's fun. I always like to, I always have liked to stir things up, and so I'm totally willing to advise people, and I'm happy because, we have our little website. I mean, it's a single page right now. It's very simple, but, I'm happy to advise people. And I think my feeling is that I'm convinced that if people continue and persistently and politely address this with their city council, that they'll get removed just because of the overwhelming sentiment against them.
And I think the key word there is polite. I think respectful and polite is just the best way to go about that.
I found that in any kind of dealing with, anybody really persistent. I mean, you got to like follow up and they're not going to answer not going to call you back or whatever. But, you just have to like a dog on a pant leg, right? but politely and persistently. And I am convinced that every city, I mean, this is kind of the broad picture. Every city in Arizona could have these removed. I do think that. I think this project is good. I'm going to tell you 3 ways I think that it's really good.
Okay.
Yeah, the first reason I think it's really good is it because it has specific measurable results. So you have a project and you have, okay, here it is, to take the cameras down. So specific measurable result. And the second one is there's this broad support for it, across the political spectrum. And we're so divided now, so much divisiveness, and that I think that's huge, having this broad support. And the third one is we have direct access to the decision makers. So the city council member is my neighbor. I could talk to her, and I can go to right down the street. I can go to the city council meeting and I can talk. And then those are the decision makers right there. We all have access to that. So I think this is really just, the perfect project for people to take on.
I love that. That's fantastic advice. And it's not difficult.
No,
Yeah. A lot of times people think about, oh, that having to go to the city and having to do this and that. It's not as hard as it might seem from the get-go.
not at all. I mean, I think that you just have to get an agenda item, as far as I can tell, at the city council, get an agenda item, prepare your comments, get people to come there. That would be the start of it. I'm available to people, that's really the whole intention of having that web page. And, is that I'm available to people, and it's so doable. It's just, action items are very doable. So that I would love to be able to, advise people and help any way I can.
Well, thank you for all you do. And thank you for your time. It's greatly appreciated. And I hope we stay in touch.
I think we definitely will. Yes.
Okay. Thank you, Sandy.
Thank you, Jen.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.